So we are going to discuss these topics today. Class, what is the class, and what is the syntax? Already we are using classes, right, while writing the programs. So let me again discuss a few points about class and what is class members and what is access modifiers means and what are the different types of access modifiers we use in Java programs and what is object and how to create object from class and how to access class methods in one class from another class, how to call one class methods in another class, and what is object reference variable and what is constructor, two types of variables, different types of variables, and what is this keyword overloading concept. So first let us start with the class. Class we already discussed about class, right? And also we have seen how to define a class in our previous sessions in our sample Java programs. So this is how we are writing the class, correct? So what is the format of class? First we are writing public and next we are writing class keyword and class name is coming and class body, beginning and end of the class body. We have close bracket here. Is it right? This is the class format. That means how we are defining a class, right? This is the format. So it is first one is access modifier and the second one is class keyword. We are writing class keyword and the class name.
I'm able to see the class, but I'm not able to hear any voice. Do I have to do any settings or can I please call you? Okay.
Okay. See now this is the format of the class, how we define classes so far in our sample Java programs. So let us discuss in detail what is there inside this class definition. What is this first, what we are writing public? What is this public? And the class is a keyword we are using to define class and then class name. The class name always starts with a capital letter, uppercase letter, right? And what is this public is it is called access modifier. Public is called access modifier. So we have separate topic about that. We'll be discussing today what is access modifier, what all the access modifiers are available and how those access modifiers works. Okay, we'll discuss that in detail. So here public is nothing but it is access modifier. Okay, and a class is a keyword we are using to define a class. And after that jump, it is a class name of the class. And always class name should begin with capital letter. And one more common rule that we should follow, the public class name should be same as Java file name. So that is a one more generic rule we are following, correct? So what is the definition of class we discussed already? Class means it is a template, or you can say it is a structure, prototype of the structure which defines a set of variables and methods. Variables defines its kind of object. That means if you compare that class definition to real-time world objects, so variables represents object properties and methods represents operations. Got it? That means operations will be defined as methods and properties or attributes will be defined as variables in the class. So in technical terms, we call it as simply variables and methods. So the set of variables and methods which are defined inside the class, so these entities are called class members. members of that class. So whichever the variables or methods defined in any class, for example, if you see our class here, jump is a class we define, and inside this class we defined one variable. And how many methods we defined here? Main method, break example, continue example, sqr. So these are the four methods we defined inside this class. So this class contains one variable and four methods. So all these variables and methods are called members of that particular class members. Okay, class members means nothing but variables and methods defined inside the class. And now come to this access modifiers in detail. So we have seen here using of access modifier in the class definition, correct? In the class definition we are using access modifier public. So first of all, what is the access modifier means? See, class members are nothing but variables and methods. So these are the class members, variables and methods defined inside the class, defined in the class. Now access modifiers means these access modifiers can be used can be used for classes. It can be defined with classes, methods and variables. Got it? Access modifiers can be defined with class, method and variables. So what it will do? It defines the scope of that particular entity. Suppose if you define some access modifier with particular class or with particular method or with particular variable, so the access modifier defines that class or method or variables, the scope. The scope means where that particular class or method or variable can be accessible in the Java program at runtime. That means it defines a scope, defines scope of that entity. Got it? So now let us see what are the different types of access modifiers are available. So access modifiers, the first one is default access modifier. That is, there is something default. It is called default access modifier. So this default access modifier can be defined with the classes, without any keyword like public. See here, we are defining here some keyword to define some access modifier. If I remove this public here, then this class is using by default access modifier. If I remove this public access modifier in the class definition, what does that means? This class still defined with some access modifier. What is that access modifier is? Default access modifier. Got it? That means if you don't define any access modifier to any class, that class belongs to by default access modifier. Okay. So for this default access modifiers, there will be no keyword at all. No keyword will be defined. See, if any class is defined with default access modifier, then where this class can be accessible. So what access modifier will do? It defines the class or method or variables scope within the Java program. That means where that particular class or method or variable can be accessible. That can be defined by using its access modifier, whatever is defined for that particular entity. See now, for example, if I remove this public here, then this class belongs to default access modifier. If it is default access modifier, then this class can be accessible within this package. Within this package. Got it? Not in other packages. So package means, see, already we are defining your package. So what is the package means? It's a collection of classes, correct? Collection of multiple classes. We are grouping classes into one package. So here inside this package we defined all these classes. So all these classes belongs to this particular package. So inside this package, if I define one class with a default access modifier, what does that means? This particular class can be accessible within this package from anywhere, only within this package. So that is the meaning of default. So the default classes cannot be accessible in other packages. Only it can be accessed within the package. That is the meaning of default. Now the second access modifier is private. So this private access modifier can be used only with methods or variables, not with classes. We cannot define any class as a private. Got it? It can be used with only methods and variables. What is the meaning of this private? For example, if I define, see, if you observe that here, let me define public class. Public, okay. So now if you see this class, all methods inside this class are defined by using public access modifier. Is it right? For all classes, we are using public access modifier. So, but if I define any one particular class as a private, I can use private also for methods. So if I define like this, okay. So what is the meaning of this now? This particular method can be available only within this class. Only within this class where it is defined. So this particular method which is defined with the private access modifier cannot be accessible outside of this class. That is private. Understand? If any method or any variable also can be defined as a private. I can define private integer of p. So like this we can declare variables. The variable can be declared with data type, and also variable can be declared with access modifier private. If any variable is declared with access modifier private, what does that means? This variable can be accessed only within this class. It cannot be accessible outside of this class. Understand? So that is the meaning. So what is the scope of this private? Only within the class. Either variables or methods which are defined with the private access modifier can be accessible within that particular class where that method or variable is defined. Understand? You got this point? And now come to third type of access modifier, protected. There is another modifier, access modifier. It is called protected. See now, if I define this method as a protected, so this protected concept, right? We can understand that after discussing inheritance. We should know what is inheritance to understand this protected access modifier, how it works. Okay, let me explain. You can understand better after discussing about inheritance. See, in the inheritance concept, we can create a subclass from one class. We can create a subclass by using inheritance concept. Understand? Suppose it is a main class, or that is called superclass, and from this superclass we can derive another subclass. Understand? So in this scenario, protected means if I define any method as protected, this method can be accessible within this package from any class. You can access this method within this package from any class. You can access it, no problem at all. But this protected method cannot be accessed outside of this package from all the classes. This protected method can be accessed outside of this package only inside subclasses of this particular class. You got this point? Protected means simple 2 points. First of all, the protected method or protected variables can be accessible by all the classes within the package, within this package. And where this method or protected variables can be accessible outside of this package, only inside subclasses of this particular main class. So what is a subclass? Don't worry, we'll discuss that in the next session. What is a subclass means. Okay, so here this again protected can be defined for methods and variables. And what is the scope here? Within the package, it can be accessible within the package by all classes and only in subclasses outside of this package, outside of the package. So within the current package, this protected method and protected variable can be accessible within that package by any class. But outside of this package, only subclasses can access. So that is a protected method, how it defines a scope. Now final one, public. Public. So the public access modifier can be used with class, method and variables. What is the scope? The scope of public access modifier is global. That means any public method or public class or public variable can be accessible from any package, from any class. Okay, from any package it can be accessible. So these are the 4 different types of access modifiers are available in Java. So first of all, what is the access modifier means? It defines the scope. The access modifier defines the scope of that particular Java entity, like method, variable or class. Understand? Scope in the sense where that particular method or variable or class is available at runtime during the Java program execution, where this particular entity is available to access. So that will be defined by using its access modifier. Understand? So that's why here, while defining the class, the first First we are defining access modifier. So for the classes, we can use only two access modifiers, public or default. Default means no need to define any keyword. We have to remove that public keyword. Then it becomes default access modifier automatically. All of you clear, guys? Nagaraju, Sailesh, and you have any questions here in access modifiers? Nagaraju, Raja, do you have any questions?
No,
Since right, these keywords you can find in every Java program, public, private, protected, or default. Okay, definitely right. You should understand that what is public, what is private, what is protected, what is default, and how it is different. Okay, so you understand the these points. Nagaraju and Raja, can you respond in the chat if you don't have any clarifications?
no, Prasad, please carry on.
Okay, yeah. Okay, guys. See now, let us move to object. What is object? Object is another important entity in the Java programs, right? We'll be using very frequently. So far, we have not used any object in our examples. Just we have seen only classes, methods, and variables. But we didn't use so far any object, right? Now let us see what is object means. What is the definition of object in programming terms, in Java programming terms? Object is an instance of class. It is an instance of class. Got it? That means, as we already discussed this point, class is something a virtual entity. It is not a physical entity. Class is not a physical entity. It is just like a prototype. It is a prototype. Class is a prototype. Got it? What is the object? The object is the physical form of class. Something, it is something, right, entity which we are defining a form of particular class. We can create an object, right, which is in the form of a particular class. So object is an instance of class. So what is the use of this object? Why we have to create objects in Java program, and why we have to use these objects? See, for example, inside this class, or let us define a new class. I'm going to define new class, arithmetic, ARTH operations. Okay, operation. This is my class name, arithmetic operation. See here, I'm not defining any main method inside this class. No, I will say that simply operation is my class name with the main method. That. So I created a class called operation, and now inside this Java file, I'm going to create another class arithmetic operation, ARTH operation. See here, I defined another class. So inside one Java file, we can define multiple classes, no problem. But there should be only one public class inside that particular Java file. So this class, what is the access modifier here for this class, arithmetic operation? It belongs to, it is using default access modifier now. Got it? Since we have not defined any keyword for access modifier, so it will take default access modifier. Okay, and now inside this class I'm going to define two variables, integer, say a, integer b. Now I will define some few methods inside this arithmetic operation class, like public integer is the data type. What is the data type? Return type. Public integer return type. Sum integer x y. Yeah. So here I defined one method. You can see that here how we are defining a method. Again, for method also we are using first access modifier. The next element is a return type. So you can see that what is this element is, it is a return type. What type of value this method returns. Suppose if this method doesn't return any value, then it should be defined as void. Okay, suppose if any method returns some value or some data, then you should define that return value type, what type of value this method returns. So this method, I want to return some integer value from this method, so that's why here I'm defining return type as integer, and sum is the method name, and to this sum I'm defining here two variables inside parentheses, inside braces. So what is this variables? These variables are called parameters. Parameters. Okay, input parameters. So what is the use of these input parameters? We can pass the data into this method through these parameters. Through these parameters. We can pass the data into this method by using these parameters. So what type of data we can pass by using x variable and y parameter? Integer data can be passed into x parameter, and similarly integer data should be passed into y parameter, and this x and y variable values can be used inside this method. So here I am calculating, suppose a is equal to x plus y. This is my step. Just I am adding these two variables and I am assigning that value to a variable, and now I want to return this value back, correct? So how to return? How to return a value from the method? We have seen that in while discussing jump statements, return is the one jump statement, right? So I want to return the value of a variable. So you should write here return within parentheses a. Now you could see that till we write this return statement, there was error. You can see that. If I remove this return statement, you are getting error. Why we are getting error? Since this method is defined with return type integer, but currently this method is not returning any value. So that's why it is showing error here. Understand? So when I add this return statement, that error is gone. See that? Now there is no more error. Got it? So this is one simple method. Similarly, let me define another simple method. Long is the integer value, return value. Suppose multiplication. Same thing I'm putting here, integer x, integer y. Okay, now here I'm writing b is equal to x into y. Let me write here integer, both are integers, right? Now again return value, return B. Return B. Done. So now this method returns the multiplication of x and y variables values. This B will be returned back. Fine. Now I defined a class with the two variables and with the two methods. Now how to execute these methods, how to run these methods. Suppose I want to call, I want to execute this method inside this class. How you can access these methods from this class? How to access arithmetic operation methods inside operation class? How we can do that? By creating an object of this arithmetic operation class, we can be able to access this class members. How we can access this particular class members? By creating an object of that particular arithmetic operation class. Then through this object, we can access all the members of this particular arithmetic operation class. Got it? So you can access all class members, including variables and methods, can be accessed through its object instance from other classes, in other classes. Got it? So that is the important benefit of object. That's why we should create an object. Without creating an object, generally we cannot access class members directly until if it is a static. Got it? So generally we can access any class members through its object. Now let us see that how to access these members, how to execute these class members, or how to access this class variable values inside this particular operation class. So inside this method, it is example of object creation. Okay, object example. Now see, the first step what we should do, we should create an object instance for this particular class. If you want to access any class variables or any class methods, what we should do, first we should have to create an object instance of that particular class, for that particular class. So how to create an object instance for any class? So first we have to define that object type. I can close it. So here I'm defining object type. What type of object it is? It is a class type. So the class name should be used as a type for objects. Okay. So this class name I'm using as a type, as object type, and then I'm giving object name, the ART arithmetic operation. So it is a variable name. Okay, it is object name. It is object variable. It is object variable, and its name is I defined as ARTOP, arithmetic operation variable, object variable, is equal to. See how we are declaring any normal variable. In the same way, we have to declare first. We have to declare that object type, object variable type, to create object instance. So that object variable is here, ARTOP is the object, my object variable, and its type should be nothing but the class name. Okay, new. So this is the statement to create an object instance for arithmetic operation class. So this statement creates object instance for this particular class, and that object is assigned to this variable. So it is called object variable, or it is called object reference variable. That means this variable references an object, not a, it is not a normal, it is not referring any value or to any data. It is a reference, it is referencing an object. So that's why it is called object reference variable. Okay, and every object reference variable should be declared with its class type. Understand? So this is the class, and for this class we created object, and that object is assigned to this variable. So this variable should be declared with this class type. Understand? Once you create object instance for this class, now we can be able to access all its members through this object reference variable. Now let us see that. Copy this and just you type dot, you can see the list of members which we defined inside this class. See, we defined two variables a and b. See, those are displaying here, a and b. And we defined two methods, sum and multiplication, right? See here, this is a sum and multiplication here. And these are all other, right, system built-in methods. By default, these methods are available for any object variable, for any object reference variable. These are all by default methods which are available. Okay, that means using for this particular variable, there are some specific members like a and b. These a and b variables are defined inside this arithmetic operation. So these two variables can be displayed only for arithmetic operation object. Similarly, some class, some method and the multiplication method, these two methods will be available only for arithmetic operation object, not for any object. Got it? So now if I want to run, for example, I want to run this sum method. So call this method sum. And for this, what I have to pass? I have to pass some values, two values. I have to pass a value for this x parameter and y parameter. Correct? So I'm giving some hard-coded values. Let us give 10 and I'm giving some 20 and semicolon. See, this method returns what this method returns? Integer value. Correct? So you can receive the value after running this statement. What will happen? After running this statement, this statement will call this particular method. Understand? And the x value will be assigned with 10 and the y is assigned with 20. And now inside this method, what we are executing? We are adding x plus y and assigning that value to a. So now a becomes 30, 10 plus 20. A is 30 now. And then it returns a. Sorry. So it should, this method returns 30 value, 30 integer value. Got it? So you can receive that value into some variable if you want. Suppose here I am declaring some variable x is equal to, like this we can do. And then you can print it if you want to print it, system dot out dot print line and give here sum. It is a sum method we are calling here. And what is the return value? You can write here x, or directly you can write here this one. You can directly write here this statement as well. Instead of x, you can write like this also. Got it? Because you no need to define one more variable here again, x. If I write here directly, see what I want to do, I want to print the sum of 10 and 20. So this statement will do that in single line. Or instead of that, you can do this in two steps. First step is call this sum method and get that value into another variable x and then print that x variable. It is second step. So like that also we can do. Got it? So always we have to try to use a minimum number of variables in the program. So this is a simple, it is a simple way. That means two steps. In two steps we are doing this. And here we are doing in single step. That's it. So we are printing here sum of 10 and 20 value. Now let me run this and see output. Okay, 30 is printed. Here also we are printing, and here also we are printing. That's why two times it is printed. Got it? Now similarly, you can suppose if I want to call multiplication method, just simply you can call here dot multiplication 10 and 20. Now it should print 200. Correct? Run this. So 200 is printed. Similarly, suppose if after running these two statements, if I want to, if you print A and B values, now let us see what is the value of A and what is the value of B. Control V. This is multiplication and this is A variable value. I want to print variable A value system of dot A. That's it. Now similarly print B value also dot B. Got it, guys? See here we're accessing all the methods of arithmetic operation class through its object variable. Now let us run one more time. See, A value is 30, B is 200 because inside this method we are assigning sum of x and y to A variable and we are assigning the multiplication of x and y value to B variable. So A is 30 and B is 200. So those values are printed. All of you clear, guys, how to define an object and how to use object to access any class members, either variables or methods. Any questions here? Nagaraju, Sailesh, any questions here? No. Nagaraju, don't hesitate to ask me any questions. You can chat me, just ping me your doubt or your clarification. I can again write discuss one more time if required. Okay. Now here we have seen object reference variable as well. See, we covered all these three. Object reference variable also we have seen now in our example. So here what is the object reference variable? This is object reference variable. See, now I will show you one more thing. See here, I can define another variable of same class type. See, for example, I'm declaring here. I'll put here one more AOP. I declared one variable of type arithmetic operation class. So this variable, is it an object reference variable now? This AOP variable, is it object reference variable? Sailesh or Nagaraju, are you getting my question? I declared one variable of type arithmetic operation class. Now tell me, this variable, is it object reference variable? No, good. It's not. It's not. Why? Because still it is just a variable. Object is not yet assigned to that variable. Understand? See, but here ARTOP variable is object reference variable because here object is assigned to this variable. So this variable is referencing some object, not a data, not a normal data. Understand? So this is object reference variable, but this is not an object reference variable. So now what I'm going to do, see here, AOP is equal to ARTOP. What I'm doing here, I am assigning this object reference variable object to this variable. Now AOP also becomes object reference variable. See, these two variables are referring to same object. Understand? Both the variables are referring to same object. Now if I print, see that if I print these two statements A and B values by using this AOP variable, not by using arithmetic operation variable, I'm going to use here AOP variable, AOP dot A, AOP dot B. So it is AOP dot A and it is AOP dot B. Now what values will be printed by these two statements? What values will be printed? It prints 3200. Got it? Let us see. Let me check it. See that. See what is the AB? These two AB, we are printing this A and B value by using ARTOP variable, object variable. By using this variable, we are printing here A and B values. And here we are printing AB values by using another object variable, that is AOP. So both values are same. Is it? Understand? See now, suppose if I assign AOP is equal to null, what will happen? If I run these two statements, what will be printed now? What is the statement meaning? AOP is equal to null. That means we are removing that object from this variable. See here we are assigning object here. What we are doing? Arithmetic operation object is assigned here. But in this statement what we are doing? We are nullifying that variable. That means object is removed from that variable. Now this variable is no more object reference variable. Understand? And now this variable is object reference variable or not after running this statement. After running this statement, this variable is a object reference variable or not? It is still object reference variable. Got it? So these two statements will print 3200. See that? See, it is printing 3200. That means only this variable is nullified, but still this ARTOP is still object reference variable. Understand, guys? Clear? This object reference variables, how it works. Okay, that is about object reference variables. Yes, all of you clear, right? Understand these topics. So these are really important topics and basics of core Java. Okay, what we are discussing now. It's really very important to understand these concepts to work with Java programming. Okay, see another important topic, constructor. What is a constructor is? What is a constructor? Here in this Java program, we have seen that how to create an object instance. How we are creating object instance? By using new keyword. So it is important. By using this new keyword, we are creating here a new object instance for this particular class. and that object is assigned to this particular variable. So now that variable becomes object reference variable. So to assign this particular object to this variable, first this variable should be declared with this class type. Only then it is possible to assign this class object to this variable. So that's why here we are declaring this variable with this particular class name. You understand this? Why we are declaring here object class name as the object type, and the new is the keyword we are using to create a new object instance for any particular class. Okay. Now let us say that what is a constructor is. See, constructor means nothing but it is a method with class name. We can define a method inside the class. We can define a method with class name. That means operation. Sorry, is a operation with parentheses. This is called constructor. The constructor method name should be same as class always. And another important point while defining the constructor, it is a method. Okay, constructor is a method, but it is different from normal methods. If you see any normal method, what is the format of the normal method? First we are declaring access modifier, and then we are defining return type, and then class name and some parameters. So that is a prototype of any method, correct? But in this constructor method, we should not define any return type. A return type should not be defined for constructor, because by default, right, it returns this class type by default. So we should not define any return type for any constructor method. And another important point is the constructor name, method name should be same as class name. And to this constructor, if you want, you can define parameters in the constructor method. That is your wish. Okay. And now see, let me take this one operation. Suppose here I want to pass some in or without input. First, let us say that without input. I will define here. Let me define here some variables also. Integer x, two variables I am declaring, integer y. And inside this operation method, I want to initialize these two variable values. That is what I want to do inside the constructor method. So here I am initializing with x is equal to 5 and y is equal to 5. These are my initialized values assigned to this both the variables inside constructor method. See, what is this constructor method? Why we need this? And when this constructor method will be executed? Sorry, generally it should be defined now, not here. Inside arithmetic operation, I should define, not here, guys. So this is the class we are creating here, correct? We are creating an object for this class. So I will define constructor for this class. I will define here. I have already two variables a and b, and I am defining now a constructor method for this class. And inside this constructor, what I'm doing, I'm initializing both the variables. A is equal to 5, b is equal to 5. These are the initializing values assigned to this both variables by using constructor method. So when this constructor method will be executed, at the time of creating a new object instance for this particular class, whenever we create a new object instance for this class, at the time of creating that object, this method will be executed automatically. That means whenever you run this statement, automatically this constructed method will be executed at the time of creating this object instance itself. So what we are doing inside this method, I am initializing a is equal to 5, b is equal to 5. So after creating this object instance variable, if I print a and b values just after creating object instance, see, after creating this object instance, if I print a and b variable values, what should be printed here? 5 should be printed. Understand how these 5 values are coming? At the time of running this statement, automatically this constructor method will be executed, and inside this method a is assigned with 5 and b is assigned with 5. So that's why after running this statement, if you print a and b, you could see 5 should be printed. Let us run this. Now see that 5 printed. Understand now? So this method is executed. When this method is executed, whenever you run this a new object instance creation step, automatically this constructor method executed and a and b are assigned with the 5 values, and those values are printed after that statement. Got it, guys? So we can define n number of constructors in the class. See, I can define one more another constructor with the same name. Okay, that is called right overloading, that we will discuss in the next topic. See what I'm going to do. I can define one more constructor for the same class with the same name with the different inputs. The input parameters should be different, at least parameters should be different. So here what I will do, I am passing two inputs here in this method. See, in the first constructor method, we are not passing any parameters. We are not defining any parameters in the first constructor method. But in the second constructor method, now I am going to define two input parameters of type integer. I can say m integer n. And now inside this method, a is equal to, I'm assigning m, b is equal to n. That means I want to assign this m to a variable and n value to b variable. So that is what I'm doing. So whenever you are calling this method, you are initializing a and b with default values 5. But whenever you call this constructor method, what values will be assigned to a and b? The values that we are passing into this constructor method will be assigned to a and b variables. Now let us see that how to call this method and this method in this. See here, when I run this statement, it will call this method, the first constructor method. Why it will call first constructor method? Here we are not passing any arguments, and in this constructor method also no arguments are there. So that's why when you run this statement, it will execute first constructor. Now let me define another statement. So already here I will take this variable. To this variable I am assigning AOP is equal to, I am creating another object instance. Say it is a second object instance I am creating. Operation. So here I am passing values 1 and 2. See that. I am passing values. I am passing inputs here in this statement. So whenever you run this statement, it will execute the second constructor method. So now a value will be 1, b value will be 2. Got it? So print it if you want here. Print again these two statements. Here we should use this variable, not this first object variable. I should use this object variable. See now here it will print 1 and 2, and here it will print 5 5, because here I am passing 1 and 2, so that's why A and B will be assigned with these two values. Let me run this. See that 5 5 1 2. First 5 5 values are printed from this object, and this 1 and 2 are printed from this object. See, now in this program we created two different object instances for same class, for the same class. The first object instance we created without input, and that object instance is assigned to this variable. And the second object instance is created with two inputs, and this object instance is assigned to second variable. Got it, guys? So like this we can define constructor. Multiple constructors can be defined in the Java classes. And what is a constructor is? It is a method with the same name as class and without any return type, with some parameters optional. If you want, you can define parameters or you can ignore parameters. It is not mandate. And when this constructor method will be executed, at the time of creating a new object instance, this method will be executed automatically. And we can define multiple constructors in one class. So this is called overloading. Overloading means we are defining multiple methods with the same name. See here, I define two methods with the same name. So this concept is called overloading. That means you are defining same method with different inputs, or with different input types, or with a different number of inputs. We can define method multiple times of same method with a different number of inputs or with a different types of inputs. If you define like that, then that method is called overloaded. So this concept is called overloading. Got it? Understand, guys? So let me show you that overloading concept with the method as well. See here, this method sum, I have sum here, right? I will rename this as integer sum. Integer, or sorry, sum is the name. And for this sum method, I am passing integer values as input. Suppose if I want to add sum, yeah, okay, sure, Mahel, Sailesh, if it is creating any confusion, let me create a new class with the example with the method overloading. Okay, let me create a new class with for method overloading. See, the class name is overloading, and define main method is defined, and here see here, now I'm going to add inside this arithmetic operation, I'm going to add here inside this class, I'm going to add here one more method with the same name sum. Here, say that, control C, sum. But here the written value of this sum is not integer, it is for example, let us take long. Okay, long. So here I should pass long values, long integer values. So I should declare here one more variable of long C to receive that value C, and return C. Say that I defined, sorry, I modified here. not here, in the second method. Here I should modify C. Okay, so in this class we have defined two methods of same name, sum, and this sum method is using integer type inputs, and this sum method is using long data type inputs, but number of inputs are same. Got it? See, I can have another sum, one more sum without any inputs. Without any inputs, I can have one more sum without any inputs. And here what I will do, just a return a plus b value. I will return a plus b. A plus b value I want written as integer. See here I have defined three methods with the same name. So this is called overloading concept. Okay, same method with a different number of inputs or with a different input types. If you define any method multiple times with a different inputs or with a different input types, that means number of inputs are same. So if I take this second method and third method, number of inputs are same, but input types are different here. And if you see first method, second method, number of inputs itself different. Here no inputs, here we have two inputs. Got it? So now let us say that how to call these overloaded methods from other classes. Now I'm going to overloading class here. Now here I will create object instance. First let me define this class type variable. Control C. I will define two variables of this type, AOP1 and AOP2. Two variables were declared of type automatic operation class. Now create first object instance is equal to new automatic operation, and here I will pass input because I have already two constructors inside this class, one constructor without input, one constructor with input. So first I will pass without input here, and then inside that AOP1 dot sum. See, I'm calling, see, it is displaying three sum methods. First sum method without inputs, second sum method with two inputs, integer inputs, and third sum method with long inputs. So I'm going to call first method. So print that value, system dot out dot print line. So this is a AOP1 dot sum. This is the value I'm printing here. Done. So now what will be printed? What value will be printed here? If I run this statement, if I run this program, when I run this statement, what happens? It executes first constructor method without inputs. So what is the value of A and what is the value of B? 5, 5. That's fine. After that, what we are doing? We are calling the first sum method without inputs. So inside that method, what we are doing? We are adding A plus B. What is the A value and B value? 5, 5. So 5 plus 5, 10. So 10 will be returned. Got it? And so the 10 will be printed here. Now run this and see 10 should be printed. 10 is printed. Okay. Now again, by using same object variable, if I want to call second second sum method with integer inputs, what I should do? Let us define here some inputs with integer x is equal to some 5, integer y is equal to some 21, and similarly define some long a is equal to define some values, long b is equal to, then I've defined it. Now here I am passing, in the second statement I am passing two inputs x comma y. So this is with integer inputs, and the third statement I will call third sum method with a long input, and here you should pass a comma b, So now run this program. So it is printing. So it is a first sum method and second sum method and a third sum method. So like this, you can use this overloading concept. We can execute overloaded methods by defining respective input, whichever the method you want to execute. So the respective number of inputs or now input type value should be defined in the calling statement. Let's see here, calling statement means the statement where you are calling another method. That is called calling statement here. So this is the statement where we are calling this particular method in from another class. Got it? So any questions, guys, in this overloading concept? And today, now we discussed about what is the class and what are the class members, and one important topic, access modifiers. What are the different types of access modifiers? What is the default, private, protected, and public? What is the meaning of those access modifiers? And what is object and how to create an object? We have seen. When use constructors, yeah, I'll come to that point, Salesh. And how to access methods in other classes, how to execute any class methods or any class variables, how to access from other classes by creating object. We could do that. And what is object reference variable? We have seen that, how to define object reference variables, and how to create object and assigning that object to variables. And then we discussed about constructor. Constructor is a method with the same name as class name without any return type and with some inputs as optional. And when this constructor will be executed at the time of creating object instance for that particular class, whenever you create a new object instance for that class, then automatically this constructor method will be executed. So generally when we use this constructor methods, simple. If you want to do some initialization activities, see for example, see that here inside this class I have two variables I have declared, a, b, and I want to initialize these two variables whenever I create a new object instance. I want to initialize these two variables with some values whenever a new object instance is created. So that is what I'm doing in my first method, in my first constructor method. What we are doing here, we are initializing these variable values. See, not only variables initialization, any other operation, whatever you want to do at the time of object creation. So those operations should be defined in the constructor. Generally, what type of operations will be performed? Initializations or any other operations, whatever you want to do at the time of creating an object instance. Understand? See, in this constructor method, I want to initialize these two variables, a and b variables, with some default value, 5, 5. But sometimes I want to pass the data or values for these two variables from outside. That means I don't want to initialize these two variables with default values. Instead of that, I want to pass those values at the time of creating an object. Got it? At the time of creating an object, you want to pass a values to these two variables. So for that purpose, we are defining here another method, constructor method. In this constructor method, we are defining two parameters, and to these two parameters, we are passing the data at the time of creating an object. Got it? So that is what. So that is the use of constructor. You've got it, Sailesh? Constructor is nothing but it is a method. Got it? So whatever the actions or operations or initializations that you want to execute at the time of creating an object, whatever you want to do, those things should be defined inside the constructor. Okay? Yeah. Okay, guys. Let us take some break of 15 minutes, and then we will continue our session. And we have another important two more important topics: types of variables and what is this keyword. And if time permits, I would like to discuss about inheritance as well. Okay. Okay, guys. So we will let us join back after 15 minutes. Bye. Okay. The next important or more important topic is types of variables in Java program. Now, if you see that types of variables, right, can be categorized based on the location where variables are declared. So let us see that in our sample programs, we can declare variables at different places. One is inside the class or inside the method, right, or inside sometimes block. Block means with open and closing braces. So any group of steps with the open and closed braces is called block. So we can also define variables in these three different places: inside the class, inside the method, or inside the block. The variables defined inside the block or inside the method are called local variables. Got it? So types of variables. So we are discussing about types of variables. First one is local variable. Local variables. These local variables, where local variables are defined inside method or inside any block. So those variables are called local variables. The local variables, let us see some example with local variables. I will create a new class for this variables, types of variables example. I create a new class with the main method, variable types. Variable types is the class name. Finish it. Create. So now it is a inside method, main method, correct? It is a main method, and inside that I'm going to define local variables. Local variables. So if I declare any variable inside this method, it is a local. It is a local variable. Let us initialize with some value 5. And now you can access these local variables only within this method. And for these local variables, we cannot define access modifiers. We discussed, right? Access modifiers like default, private, protected, public. So these access modifiers cannot be applied for local variables. Got it? Local variables will be defined inside a method or inside some block. And for these local variables, we cannot use access modifiers. And local variables can be accessible only within that method or within the block wherever it is defined. Got it? We can't access these local variables outside of that block or outside of that particular method. It is not possible. So it will throw error if you try to declare define any access modifier for local variables. It will throw error. So let me just simply print here system dot out dot print line local variable x. What is the value of x? Just I'm printing value of x. And let us say block means, let me show you a block also. Say for example, I have a do while loop, okay? Or suppose I have a loop, okay? While loop. While you can write condition, right? X less than 10 or less than or equal to 10. So here I am starting the block here, while block with the open curly braces, right? And it is the closing of that while block. And inside this while block, I can declare another variable. Suppose I am declaring here integer y is equal to 1, and here I am printing local variable inside block y is equal to y, not y. I can say plus plus y, example y plus plus. Okay, and I'm giving here x plus plus. X should be incremented every time because this while loop will be running now 5 times, and it will be printing 1 2 3 4 5 will be printed inside that while loop. So inside this while block, we define one variable y, and inside this main method we declared one variable x. This x variable can be used within this method anywhere. See, we are using this x variable inside the block also, inside this while block also, it is accepted. But we can't use this y variable outside of this block. If you try to print y value outside of this while loop, it will throw error. I am trying to print here local variable y outside of block y. See that it is showing error. The red color mark is there here. See, this variable cannot be resolved because this variable y is declared inside this while block. So this y variable can be accessible only within this while block. That's it. We can't use this y variable outside of this block, since it is a local variable and that can be accessed only within that block. But this x is defined outside of this block and inside the main method. So this X variable can be used inside the while block or outside of the while block also, but inside main method only. Got it? So it is a wrong statement. So we cannot execute this statement. It will throw error. Comment it. Got it, guys? So this is about local variables. Now the second type of variable is called instance variable or non-static variable. Instance variables are non-static variables. Where we define these instance variables? Outside of all the methods, not inside any method. Outside of all methods and inside the class. Here we can define. So let us say, for example, integer I is equal to 1 or 0. Integer I is equal to 0. So this I variable is called instance variable. Instance variable. So instance variable, or it is called non-static variable. What is this instance variable is? See, whenever you create an object for this class, for that object, a new instance variable I will be created. Suppose if I create two objects for this class, object 1 and object 2. So object 1 has one I variable and object 2 also has another copy of I variable. That means here that I variable will be instantiated twice for two objects. If you create two objects for this class, if I create 100 objects, for every object one I variable will be created, and inside that each object you can access this I variable, and inside this each object I variable values will be different. In object 1 I value can be different, object 2 I value will be different, object 3 I value will be different, because these three objects are independent objects and each object has its own I variable. Object 1 I variable value can be different from object 2 I variable value. So that's how this instance variable will be initialized for every object. For every object, whenever a new object is created, a copy of I variable will be created for that object. Got it? That's why it is called instance variable. That means every time whenever you instantiate a new object, this I variable copy will be created for that object. Now let us see one example. How to define how to create object for this variable, correct? I think so. I can show you this one with our operation class example. Where is that? Operation. Yeah. If you look at this arithmetic operation class, inside this we have three variables. Inside the class we defined A, B, C. These three variables are instance variables, non-static variables. And you can see that I will create for this arithmetic object, two objects I will create. Let us see that. I will create here inside this. I am creating object. Let me copy that class name. Now I am going to create two objects for this class. Let me define here AOP1 and AOP2. AOP two variables I declared of type arithmetic operation class. And now let us define first object. AOP1 is equal to new arithmetic operation. And here I am calling without inputs. Without inputs. Yeah, I'm deleting here. I'm declaring here directly. Okay, arithmetic operation AOP1 is equal to new arithmetic operation class. And here we are creating an object without any inputs. So you for this object, by using this object, whenever you create an object, what will happen? Inside operation arithmetic operation class, you have three instance variables. So three instance variables will be created for this object, for this AOP1 object. Got it? Similarly, I will create one more object for the same class, AOP2, AOP2, and with input, with the two inputs. Say for example, say that 5 comma 6, 5 comma 6. So now this statement will create a second object with the input 5 and 6. So this statement will execute this second method, second constructor. So a value will be m, b is equal to n. That means m is equal to 5, n is equal to 6. So a values will be 5 and 6. And in the first object, it will execute this method. So a value will be 5, b value will be 5. Got it? That means in the first object, a value and b value can be different. Let it be give different value here. 6, 6 I am giving. When I run this statement, a and b will be initialized with 5, 5. And when we run this statement, second statement, a and b are initialized with 6, 6. So now if I print here system dot out dot println, what is that? First a value inside AOP1, a b values. Let me print a and b values inside AOP1 object, object 1, AOP1 a b from AOP1 object. So here I am printing AOP1 dot a and put comma, add comma, and again plus AOP1 dot b. Here it will print here 5, 5. But in the second object, a and b variables are different. Again for this second object, again a, b, c variables are created, and these variables are assigned with different values in the second object. Got it? So I will print here second a, b values from second object, from object 2. Use here object 2. Got it? Now let me run this. Say this. First object variable values are 5, 5, and the second object variable values are 6, 6. If I create another object, again for that object, again a and b values will be created. A, b values will be, variables will be created, another copy. So if I create 100 objects, 100 copies of instance variables will be created. Understand? So this object cannot access this object a value, or this object cannot access this object a value. It's not possible. All of it clear? So this is how instance variables will work. For each object, a new copy of instance variable will be created. And if I modify instance variable value in object 1, this modification cannot be reflected in other objects. Got it? So that is called instance variables. And the third type of variable, important variable, that is called static variable. Static variable. And where these instance variables are defined? Inside the class. Inside class. And this static variables also will be defined inside the class. Inside class. With a static keyword. With a static keyword. That is the only difference. Let me define here inside this operation method, or let me define new class for this. I don't want to use this. Here I will define inside this Java file. Let me define new class static variable. Okay, is the class name. And here define one variable with the class with static integer x is equal to 5. And inside that define one method, simple method, any method, public void, just print that static, just a print static variable value, system dot static x variable. That's so simple class I defined here with one static variable x. Now let us create objects for this class inside this main method. I'm going to create here two different objects for this class. Static variable sv1 is equal to new. That's all. Now similarly define one more object for the same class with sv2 is another variable name. Now you can access these instance variables or static variables by using objects, correct? See, now what I'm doing, what I'm going to do now, what is the value of x inside sv1 object and inside sv2 object? What is the value of x? Let me print it. Say I'm going to print here x static variable x from sv1 object, sv1 dot x. Okay, same thing we have to print from sv2 object as well. It is from sv2. sv2. See, now these two statements now will print 5 5 because this x is initialized with 5. So x value will be 5 5 now, definitely. Okay, now after that what I'm doing, see, I'm going to change this x value inside s1 object, sv1 object, sv1 dot x is equal to 10. What I'm doing, I modified sv1 object static variable x. Now if I print both x values from sv1 and sv2 after changing this value in sv1, what would be printed? Let us see that. Similarly, in the next statement, I am changing x value in sv2 object. sv2.x is equal to 20. Now, what is the value of x value in both from both the objects? Let us see this. Just look at that. Say first one, this one. The x value before changing in sv1 x is 5 and sv2 x is 5. That's fine. After this, we modified x value inside sv1 object. We modified only in x variable, sorry, in sv1 object. That means in object 1 we modified x value, but it is changing x value in object 2 also. See, look at that. X is assigned to 10 in object 1, but it is displaying 10 in object 2 as well. Similarly, we modified x value to 20 in object 2. Now you can see that x value is modified to 20 in object 1 also automatically. That means, what you understand from this? All these objects are sharing a same copy of x variable. That means object 1 and object 2 both are sharing a same copy of x variable. So that's why if its x value is modified in any one object, this modification will be reflected in all objects automatically. Understand? See how the instance variables are instantiated or initialized, and how static variable is initialized. The difference. If the variable is instance variable, that means if it is a non-static variable, for every object, it creates a new copy of instance variable, and this variable cannot be shared among the objects. Each object has its own instance variable. But if the instance variable is a static, that is called static variable. The static variable will be shared among the objects by using a single copy of that variable. It will not create a separate new copy of static variable for each object. It initializes only one. It creates only one copy of a static variable, and the same static variable will be shared among the objects for that particular class. How many objects you can create? Even if you create 100 objects, all 100 objects will share a single copy of static variable. It won't create multiple copies of static variable like unlike instance variable. Got it? And another important benefit of a static variable is, now we understand that static variable only once it will be initialized. It will not create multiple copies. Multiple copies will not be created for static variables. That is important point. Okay. And another important point about static variables is, see, if it is a instance non-static variable, how you can access non-static variables? Only through object instance you can access non-static variables. Say for example, if you see here, we are accessing a and b. A and b both are instance variables inside arithmetic operation. Here both are instance variables, that means non-static variables. The non-static variables can be accessed only through object instances, but static variables can be accessed without creating object instance. That means even before creating object instance, you can access directly the static variable value. See how it is. Here we are creating object instance to access static variable, right? See, before this itself, I can print x variable value from this class. Let us see that. See here, I will give here control C, static variable x without object instance, without creating object instance. How to access this? So you can access static variables directly by using its class name itself. You no need to create any object instance to access that static variable in the Java program. So directly I can use this class name dot x. That's it. So here it will print x value 5. Not only here, even if I print access this statement, if I execute this statement here, it will print 20. Here it prints 5 and here it should print 20. Let me run this. See this. Without object instance, 5 is printed, and here it is the latest current value of x is 20, so 20 is printed. Got it? So this is about static variable. So static variables important. The difference between static and the non-static variables. 2 points. One is non-static variables, multiple copies of non-static variables will be created. Multiple copies will be created. That means for each object, one copy of non-static variable or instance variable will be created. If it is a static variable, there would be only one copy. That means only once the static variable will be initialized, and the same variable will be shared among the objects. So if I modify that static variable in one object, that modification will be automatically reflected in all other objects. That's how the static variable will work. And another important point is instance variable or non-static variable can be accessed only through object instance, but static variable can be accessed by using its class name directly without creating object instance. Okay guys, any doubts in this types of variables concept topic? Do you have any questions? No. Okay, good. Now let me discuss the next small topic, that is called this keyword. What is this one? This keyword is, and where we use this keyword, when it is useful. This keyword in core Java. See, generally this keyword is very useful. For example, see here we are accessing sv1.x variable x. Got it? So here x is this means current object. Yeah. Yeah. See, when it is useful, right? See, for example, if you have declared one instance variable x is equal to 5, and suppose, sorry, this x is declared inside main method, correct? Inside main method is defined here, or let me show you new class. Yes, it will create a confusion. Let me define new class with this. Now see this here inside class I'm declaring, sorry, abstract class public. So now here I'm declaring some integer x is equal to 5. So this x is a instance variable, correct? Now inside this method, main method is a method inside this class. Now suppose inside this method also, if I declare one more variable x is equal to 10, x is equal to 10, x is equal to 10. Are you getting the example here? I declared x variable inside the class and also inside the method. In two places I declared variable x. Inside the class x is initialized with 5 and inside main method x is initialized with 10. Now if I want to print x value, if I want to print, this is called local variable, correct? It is a local variable and this is a instance variable. It is instance variable. Correct? And now if I want to print local variable, so my statement should be like this: system dot out dot print line local variable x is equal to x. So it will print here 10, no doubt about that. Suppose if I want to print instance variable x inside this method, I want to print here out dot print line print instance variable x. Now if I write here x, what it will print? It will print here 10, not 5, correct? Let us run. See, both values are 10, but what is the instance variable value? 5 should be printed here in the second statement. Okay, so what to do for that? So now to access the instance variable value inside any method, that means whenever this instance method variable is hidden by local variable. So generally whenever you defined instance variable and local variables with the same name, the local variable will hide the instance variable within that method. So the first priority should be given automatically to local variable. So that's why this here x value it is printing 10. But if I want to access instance variable inside the method where instance variable is hidden due to local variable with the same name, that is the scenario now here. Inside this method, I have defined the same one local variable with the same name as an instance variable. So inside this method, this local variable is given high priority. So it hides the instance variable here inside this method. But if you want to access my instance variable value, still you can access that by using this keyword, this dot x, right? Use capital letter. sorry guys, inside main method, one more rule is there. One rule guys, if any method is a static method, if you declare any method as a static, and in that method you can access only static variables. That is one rule in Java. Okay, so here this x is not declared as a static, so that's why it is not allowing here. So if I declare this variable as a static, then that error will go on off. See, it is gone. This dot, it's not printing. T capital letter. Fine. So here it should print 5, value 5, and here it should print local variable 10, and in the second system print line statement will print the instance variable value 5. Let us run this. See, 5 is printed in the second line. In the first statement 10 is printed. Got it guys? Like this we can access see, this means actual meaning is the current object. So it references the current object. So the current object, whatever the object, from which object you are calling this method, so that object instance variable value will be printed here. This means the actual meaning, the current object which is calling this method. So that object instance variable x value will be printed here. That means if you want to access any current object, right, instance variable members, then we have to use this keyword this. You got it? Any clarifications, any doubts here? No? Okay. Okay, guys. Now let us discuss another small topic, data passing methods. That means we have seen today in today's session how we can pass the data into methods through parameters. Correct? We have seen that. So here we have some examples where we are passing methods, where we are passing the data into the methods. For example, some method. Here we are passing integer values, and here we are passing long values, and here again we are passing integer values. Is it right? But actually there are two different methods that we can use to pass the data into these parameters from the calling statement, where you can pass the data into these methods, from where you are passing the data into these methods, from the calling statement, where you are calling this method. So here we are calling this method, see that here we are calling this method. Got it? So this is called calling statement, and this is the method called method. Got it? This is the method we are calling from here. Since we are passing integer value, so it will execute this method. Got it? So this is called method definition, and this is a calling statement. It is a calling statement. Got it? So inside the calling statement we are passing the data. We are passing two input data for two parameters that are defined inside the method x and y. For these two parameters we are passing two inputs in the calling statement 10, 20. Got it? Say how this data is passing into this x and y. So there are two methods, right, will be used. There are two methods. One is pass by value, and the second method is called pass by reference. Pass by reference. A simple point. I don't go in detail about this. Simply, I will give you that what is the difference pass by value and pass by reference method. If it is using pass by value, what will happen? Say one more thing I would like to tell you. Suppose instead of passing here hard coded values, if I'm using here variables inside the calling statement, I can use variables also, correct, in the calling statement instead of using hard coded values. Let me go with a new class. I'm defining new class. Passing methods, data passing methods. Okay. First here I will define one method, simple method, public void. Okay, let us take double. I want to double the given number. So with the input integer a is equal to a into 2. I want to square or I want to, it is a square actually. 2. Let us make it a square name. So just what it is doing, it is square this value and print it. Inside that I'm printing that value, system dot out dot incline a square, okay, is equal to a. Done. And here I will define another method, one more method, public. For this I have to define separate class. Class, suppose a class name is a1. So with some variables, integer a, integer b, two variables. Okay. Or suppose if it is length and it is width, let us take like that. It is a rectangle. That is the class name, rectangle class. And inside that I can define one method, simple method, public stat, public void area of the rectangle. System dot out dot print line a rectangle area. What is the rectangular area value? L into W, right? L into W. That's it. Just simply two variables and one method I define inside this class. Now what I'm going to do, okay, first let us see this example, guys, and then I'll come to this explanation. So here what I'm doing, inside this square method we define one parameter and then I can call this method inside main method. I can call this method inside main method. So I'm calling that here sqr. Before calling integer, I'm defining one variable x is equal to 5. And now system dot out dot Okay, anyway, it is printing there. So I'm calling this method now, sqr of x. Correct, right? Change return type. Right, it's not. Change return type of square to integer. To integer a, it will print. Why you have to change return type? No, sorry. I think so because of this. Still error. Change modifier of square to static. Okay. Since main method is a static, so this method also should be static because we are calling this method inside a static method. So this method also should be declared as static. Okay, let me define it as a static to right fix this issue. Why still showing error? Oh, no value is there, sir. Integer x is equal to 5. X is equal to, let us initialize some value 5. So now I'm calling this method square method inside the main method. And inside this is a calling statement. Got it? This is called calling statement. So in this calling statement, what we are passing as input, I am passing variable x as input. And inside this method definition, a variable, that means we are passing this x variable value to this a variable inside this method definition. Correct? That means for this parameter a, we are passing the value x in the calling statement. Got it? Now, inside this method a, inside this method square, we are updating this a variable with a square. Correct? So after running this method, the value of a is 25, and after finishing this method execution, the control will go back to this square calling statement, and it will continue execution to the next statement. So here I am printing out.println. I am printing here x value of x. What should be the value of x here? X value is 5 and a value is 25. If I run this program, it prints first this statement will be executed, and after that it will execute this statement. So first it will print 25 and then it will print x. Let us see that. Say first, sorry, x into 2, 5, 10. So it is not a square. Let me make it square. A into a. A into a is a square, right? Now it should print 25, not 10. The square of a is 25. And what is the x here? 5. So now the value of x is passed into the parameter a by using this method called by value method. So in this program, the value of x is passed into this parameter a by using this method. What is that method? By value method. Pass by value method. That means in this method, what will happen? The value of x variable. What is that value of x? 5. So that 5 will be passed to this parameter a. So a becomes 5 now. That means 5 is assigned to a. That's it. So here x is different variable and a is different variable. Both are two different variables, but both are having same value now. After running these steps, A value is changed to 25, but X value is not changed to 25. It is still 5. That's what we see in the print, correct? X is A is 25, X is 5. So that's how the pass by value will work. What is a pass by reference means, right? See, to these methods, you can also pass objects as input. In core Java methods, we can use object reference variables as parameters, as input. We can pass objects as input into methods, into Java methods. So in that case, Java will use the second method as a data passing method, because when you are passing an object reference variable, when you are passing an object, that object reference will be passed to the parameter. So that's why it is using by reference method. But here when you are passing a normal value, normal data as input, so that value of that variable or that value only will be passed into this parameter. So it is using here by value method. When by reference method will be used whenever we are passing an object as input to any Java method, it will be using by reference method. Okay, let me show you an example how we can pass objects as input to Java methods. For that, I created here one class, rectangle class, with the two variables L and W, length and width, and one method which calculates and prints the area of the rectangle. Now, inside this main method, I'm going to create two objects for this rectangle class. Rectangle R1 is equal to new rectangle. Let me define some constructor also for this to pass the data for these two instance variables. I want to pass some data. So I'm defining constructor here with the two inputs, integer x, integer y. L is equal to x, W is equal to y. I'm initializing these two variables inside the constructor. And now I'm going to create an object for this class with the two inputs. One is let us say 3 and 4. It is my first rectangle, and my second rectangle is R2 with the 4 comma 5. 4 comma 5. And now you can print rectangle 1 area, R1 dot area. Similarly, I can print rectangle 2 area, R2 dot area. That. So it will execute this method and it will print the area of each rectangle. Correct? So let me run this. So it is printing 12 and 20 perfectly. Now I'll be defining one more method inside this rectangle class, public void assign or copy, not assign, that copy is the copy rectangle. That means I want to copy one rectangle to another rectangle. So that means here what should I have to pass as input? I have to pass one rectangle object as input. The rectangle object should be passed as input. R. Okay, that means this object should be copied into the current object. So what I am going to do here, if this dot L is equal to L dot R dot L, this dot W is equal to R dot W. So guess what I'm doing here in the copying of rectangle, or I can define another simple method, compare. Suppose I want to compare two rectangle objects, whether both are same or not. How I can do that? So here, okay, I will is equal to R dot W. And one more method I'm defining, R dot W. Public void compare rectangle. Here I have to pass two rectangles. Rectangle R1 comma rectangle R2. I'm passing two rectangles, and inside this method what I want to do, I want to check that both the rectangles having same length and the same width. If length and width are same, then both rectangles are same or equal. If any either length or width is not same, then both rectangles are not equal. That message I want to display. So how I can do that? If R1 dot length is equal to R2 dot length, then after that I have to verify one more width also I have to check. R1 dot width is equal to R2 dot width. If both conditions are passed, then print system dot out dot print line rectangles are equal. Got it? Else you can print it rectangles are not equal. Else are not equal. Here also, if this if condition also fails, I want to display same message. Got it, guys? So here I have defined two methods with inputs. What is the input here? Object as input, not a normal data as input. Object is the input here for these two methods. Now let us see that. Now first I will try this method. I want to copy R2 object into R1. So what I will do now, R1 dot copy R1 dot copy of rectangle. What is the object I have to pass? Input I have to pass R2 as input. What I'm doing, I'm copying R2 into R1. So now after this statement, what should be the R1 length and width? 4 and 5. R1 length should be 4 and width should be 5. Let us see that. After that, if I execute R1 dot area, it should print 20. It should print here 20. After that, I want to check that R1 and R2 both are equal or not. Got it? How we can execute this? Sorry guys, here also I no need to pass two rectangles, only one is enough. I can remove this because one we have to use current object, so this should be used here. We should compare this rectangle with the current object. That's what we have to do. That. So here I'm calling R1 dot compare rectangle. I want to compare this rectangle with R2. Okay, say R2 is our second rectangle. So now both should be equal. That message should be printed now because we are copying R2 into R1, so that R2 length and R2 width should be copied into R1. So both should become equal. Now let me run this. Say that rectangles are equal. Okay, so like this you can pass that objects, you can pass objects as input. into Java methods. Yes, you have any questions or doubts here? No. Okay. And one more, the last topic of this today's session, inner class. What is inner class? Inner and outer classes. So you have seen so far we have seen how to define multiple classes in Java file, correct? We have defined more than one class inside a Java file. So this is one class and it is another class. These two classes are different classes, two different classes. There is no relation, correct, between these two classes. In Java, it is possible to define one class inside another class. It is possible. Let us see that, how to define that and how it works. New class. I'm going to define as the outer class since it is the main class, outer class with the main method, outer class. And inside this, right, inside this outer class, let us define some variables. Integer x is equal to some 5. One variable is enough. And one method also we can define. Public static void m1, okay, method 1. Just simply print it is a method 1 in outer class. It is a method 1 in outer class. Fine. And now inside this outer class, now I'm going to define one more class. Class inner. Are you seeing now how we are defining, where we are defining the class here? We are defining a new class inside main class, outer class. Okay. And now inside this inner class, I can define again some variable, integer y is equal to 10. Here I can define some method. It is m, simply print inner, just simply print a message. It is inner class method, inner class method. Done. Yes. Now see how this inner class and what is the relation between inner class and outer class. See, this inner class can access all the members of outer class. If you define any class inside another class, the inner class, inside inner class, you can access all the members of outer class. That means you can print x value. So that here I'm printing here we can print x. See, x is actually defined inside outer class, correct? But still that x can be accessible inside inner class. Not only variables, you can access all the methods as well. All methods and variables which are defined in the outer class can be accessible inside inner class. But we cannot access inner class members in the outer class. Suppose if I try to access here y variable, or if you want to access this method directly in the outer class, it is not possible. See, for example, if x is equal to y, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to assign y value to x. Say it is throwing error. See, y is not defined inside this outer class, where it is defined inside the inner class. So the inner class members cannot be accessed in the outer class directly. But how we can access this inner class members if you want? By creating instance object. That means we have to create object instance for this class, for this inner class in the outer class. Like this, inner in is equal to new inner. So now by using this inner class object, outer class type, is it anything is no including instance of type outer class is accessible. Where we're accessing outer class. What is the problem? Access instance variable, perfect. New. Okay, what is wrong? Nothing is wrong in this statement. New. Yeah, maybe it's still throwing error. Yeah, okay, yes, let me check this error, why it is coming. I'm not getting. There's no error here. Okay, and one more important point, right? We cannot access this inner class outside of this outer class anywhere. That is another important point about inner class. This inner class should be accessible through object instance inside the outer class, but this inner class cannot be accessible outside of this outer class anywhere. Okay, these are the three important points about inner classes. Okay, generally we don't use this right inner classes in our Selenium scripting. Just for information, I'm giving this. Okay. Okay, let me check this issue. What is this issue I'm getting here? Yeah, I will clarify this, guys, in the next session. So, guys, you have any doubts in today's session? What we discussed today? Really, we discussed some important topics in core Java. So, do you have any doubts or any questions to me? No, Silesh. Okay. So most right probably we could close this right core Java concepts discussion mostly by coming week, and I'm planning to start with the Selenium by coming week, mostly in the second session. Okay. And we have another important topic in core Java concepts that we should discuss is inheritance. That is one important topic. Once we covered that, the rest of things we will be discussing right at the top, only at top level, not in detail. Yeah. Okay, guys. I will upload right today's session in my website. And if you don't have any questions, we can wind up the session. And if you want to ask me any questions, you can ask me.